Instructions for accessing subtitles in a language other than English are included on our board meetings webpage as well as in the description below. Instrucciones para acceder a los subtítulos en un idioma que no sea el inglés se incluyen en nuestra página web de reuniones de la Junta, así como en la descripción a continuación.
Hello, and welcome to Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. This is the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees regular meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. We have a quorum of trustees here, and we are waiting for one additional trustee, Ryan, to join us, but right now we have quorum, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with our closed session. The first agenda item, we have two closed session items to discuss. There is nobody here in the audience today for public comment regarding items on our closed session agenda before we recess, and so we'll recess into closed session, but the two items are conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, all employee groups, RVTA, CSEA, confidential classified management, and certificated management. And our second item is conference with real property negotiators for 199 Porteous Avenue. We will now recess into closed session at 6:06. All right, welcome everyone. We are reconvening in open session for Wednesday, January 25th for the regular meeting for the Ross Valley School Board of Trustees. It is 7:12, so we are reconvening back into open session at 7:12. Before we get into our conversations, we have some procedural items to get to. That is the Pledge of Allegiance and adopting our agenda. Every board meeting, before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I had started a practice when I became school board president of starting, before we do our Pledge of Allegiance, just taking a moment to reflect on our civic engagement and a moment of democracy, so that when we do say the Pledge of Allegiance, we are not just making a performative act of standing up and doing something that we do all the time, but taking a moment to think about why we engage collectively in this moment of what I think of as a civic reflection. I started it because I was kind of feeling like, wow, I'm going to have to lead this. What am I going to do to have real meaning for myself? And then wanted to share it with my colleagues. Tonight's moment of reflection that I was coming to, knowing that we are having a presentation from our students and school community, was to think about saying the Pledge of Allegiance as civic leaders and role models, and what our behavior sitting up here at the dais reflects to our community and to the young people in our community. And so tonight for me, I will be thinking about our students who are here tonight, and as representatives of all of our students, and the responsibility that I hold in playing the role that we play in helping and supporting our students. So if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and reflecting on your role as leaders, all of us, young, old, and everything in between. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we move forward, one of our common agreements is around our agenda for tonight, and so we adopt the agenda and the time allocations that we have as a board. So do any of my colleagues have any adjustments or questions on the agenda before adopting it?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second. A motion and a second to adopt. And Ryan?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shelley? Aye. Rachel? Aye. All right. So now we have an agenda that we can follow that we've all agreed to. And the next item is our student presentation from the Brookside students. Would you like to introduce what we're going to have tonight?
Yeah, I'll just introduce Principal Judith Berry, and we are so happy to have some of our third grade students and teachers and families here with us tonight. And thank you, Judith, for introducing what we'll be doing.
Thank you. First, I want to thank all of our students and our families and our teachers. We have our third grade teachers, Trisha Pelleriti and Danielle Diaz, for coming out tonight to speak. And then I want to thank our board and our district leadership for their support of this really important work that we do every day at Brookside, aligned with our racial equity action plan. What you're going to see tonight from these wonderful students and their teachers who guide them is one example of that really important learning that happens every day in every classroom at Brookside. And one of the tools that students use are our equity book bundles, and you'll see an activity that's aligned with one of those equity books. And all of this is aligned with our social justice standards, which were linked as a resource in our agenda, because I really feel as a school leader how important it is. We cannot get those social justice standards out there enough to help everybody understand all the important learning that all students are doing. They really focus on several domains, and those domains include identity, diversity, justice, and action. And we can really see tonight it's third graders sharing. Last year we had fifth graders sharing. I'm sure there's been other schools sharing as well, but every day we see in all of our classrooms at different grade levels all the building blocks for those important domains. And I really think that everything that the students are doing and everything that is within the social justice standards really make for essentials for all of our students being Brookside proud every day. So they're very aligned with what has always been important at Brookside. So I'm going to hand it over to our teachers and our students. Thank you.
Students up too. Or should we talk about it first? You guys want to come on up? Wait. You want to talk first and then come up? You guys can come up. I'm going to give you your paper so you're ready. And you guys can, do you want us to face you guys? Okay, so we're going to have one of my three students come over here, Benj, Ava, and Nico, and we're going to face the board, and I'm going to give you your papers. And then we'll talk first and then I'll tell you when it's your turn, okay?
So our first book that we read from our social justice book bundle is really nice for the beginning of the year too. It's called Just Ask. It's by Sonia Sotomayor, and it is especially great for the identity standards, but also our diversity standards. And a couple of the diversity standards that we end up being able to cover through the work that we do with this book is students being able to express comfort with their similarities and differences to each other, and developing language to accurately describe themselves and others. And Sonia Sotomayor's big message in this is, if you see somebody who's different from you, what harm is there in just asking them? And she also tells the kids that some people aren't comfortable answering, but she is comfortable. So I was going to read just one sneak peek of hers. We used this as a bit of a model for how the kids can explain some of their similarities and differences. So Sonia asks, she explains how she has diabetes and that she needs to use insulin so that she can regulate the sugar in her body. And she asks, do you ever need to take medicine to be healthy? On this page we have, I do. My name is Raphael. I have asthma, which means I sometimes have trouble breathing. When that happens, I take a break and use an inhaler with medicine to make breathing easier. Quiet time helps me slow down and catch my breath. My inhaler is like a tool to help my body. Do you use a tool to help your body? The models that kids can ask each other about similarities and differences, and they find things that they have in common and how they might have something different about them, but they're all still kids and making their way in the world.
And then we piggyback that read aloud in this activity with another activity about identity. And some of the ideas for this activity I found talking a little bit more about identity in this book is Anti-Racist, and also some online lessons that I found with some different teachers online. And we really focused on this idea of identity and had our word of the day be identity and our signal word of the day identity, watched a little video on identity and values, and then we discussed more about identity and read this book aloud, Let's Talk About Race by Julius Lester, and really talked about, well, what does identity really mean? And it's, how you see yourself. Others may try and define your identity for you, but you can determine your own identity and what defines you. And also talked about that identity is not just race, not just religion, not just culture, but also our values, what's important to us, family, our interests, and really being able to identify what is that identity, what makes you, you. And then we give them an opportunity to walk around the room and choose some different identity cards that they felt like they could identify with. So things, anywhere from I am brave, I am athletic, or identifying with a culture, I am Filipino, or I am African American, or they could also fill out their own. So if they felt like the ones that we were providing weren't what they could identify with, they could fill out a blank one. And after they chose their 3, which they have glued on the back of their Just Ask artwork and creativity, then we went into a community circle and they were able to share those identity cards and talk a little bit about why they identify with those aspects of their life and what makes them them. And so now they're going to share what they created. So you guys want to start?
Have a volunteer to go first.
What do you think? Anybody want to go
You want
first?
to go first?
All right, Ben.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Benjamin. I'm allergic to 7 things. I'm allergic to pollen, pine trees, and more. I have to take medicine before I go to school or sport. I am athletic, I am a reader, and I am a good friend.
Hi, I'm Ava, and I have to wear glasses because I'm nearsighted. That means that I can see things up close, but things far away I cannot see as well. This makes me more responsible because I have to keep track of all my pairs of glasses. I'm a reader, I'm Filipino, I am athletic.
Hi, I'm Nico, and I have had asthma. Asthma is a long-term disease that makes it hard to breathe. When a day is hard, I use an inhaler after school. This makes me stronger because I am good at breathing exercises and can tell when people are tired. I am African American, I am strong, and I am an artist.
Hi, I'm Emily. I love sports, I also love to surf and skateboard. But another thing about me is I can't have dairy-filled things. I like to think of it how, like, I'm eating healthy.
Sure.
I'm athletic, I'm brave, and I'm strong. I'm Olive, and I really like school. My favorite subject is math, and I'm a quarter Chinese. I am a mathematician, I am Chinese, and I am brave.
Good job, guys.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. And trustees, do you have any questions of our Brookside Bears?
Can we take a picture? I have
And
a
a picture will
question.
do that.
Okay. Can I ask, and anyone can answer this, how does it make you feel inside when you talk about the things that are about you? Nico?
Big question. You made it,
I think it makes me feel better about it and that, I fit in more.
Anybody else? That's really good. I like that.
Did you guys feel like you knew your classmates better after sharing this? Yeah.
I felt like I learned a lot about my students too.
It was fun watching them walk around. I actually ran out of the I am blank because they had so many of their own ideas that they really wanted to take ownership of.
I felt it was a really powerful community circle too, for them to be able to share that, right? And to all share their identities and things that the kids wouldn't have known about each other really came forward, and I thought that was really beautiful.
Thank you guys for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
More
gonna have to get up again.
And yeah, come on
Come
up.
on
So
back
what
up
we
here so you can
usually
see
do is we have you take a photo with the trustees. You really wanting to do that? Do you want to try out these chairs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you guys sit here. That's a much better
Come
photo.
on.
You guys come
My
on.
chair's the
Come on,
best.
try these on.
Check it out. It rotates back.
Go for it. All right, so what does it feel like to be up here and having an audience? Yeah? Pretty cool, huh? I'm gonna go over to
This is the best chair.
Should we take our picture down the?
Yeah, and then just if you want to practice being the board president, you have to call the meeting to order, and then you
You can lean back in
call the
this.
meeting
So
to
check it
order.
out. Lean back. Yes. Kick your feet up a little bit.
Very good. All right, you want to try
Pass it
it?
down the line.
No? You want to try it?
Shorter. Pass it. Yeah, pass it around.
All right, Nico?
Throw it over here.
You can dismiss the whole meeting.
Yeah.
Adjourn the whole thing.
Very good. That's calling the
Oh, what do
meeting
you
to
say?
order, and you do it again at the end.
Anybody want a second?
Yeah. Did you see how we vote up here? Somebody want to make a motion? Vote second? No.
You shorten the school day. Increase spring break. It all happens right here.
Have more recess.
Yeah, right.
There you go. There's
Just make a motion, get a second, call for a vote. Longer recess.
This
It's
is
that
the
easy.
future.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing.
All right,
yourselves
well,
with
let's,
us.
and we have a little something for you. And so here, will you help pass those out? And then, was there anybody who was going to come tonight and couldn't? Do you know? After all?
I don't think so.
We got a
Okay.
couple extra.
All right, yeah, just in case. All right, well now, we would love to have a picture with you and your teachers and Miss Berry with the board. And then also, it'd be so awesome if you can tell us who brought you tonight. So would you introduce the person who either drove you here, rolled you here, walked you here, however, who's here with you? Who would like to go first to introduce? Nico? Why don't we just go down the line like this? Go ahead, Nico.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, bring them up here. Bring them up here for the photo.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
bring
it.
them up here for the
All right.
photo. And introduce us to.
Yeah, introduce us to your, and who, those people, I recognize them, they're your mom and your dad. Yeah.
So this is my mom, Ramona, and this is my dad, Isaac.
Thank you.
All right, you want to go bring.
And is that your brother?
Maxie, do you want to come up
Yeah,
here?
you can come too. Come on in. You want to? No? All right.
All right.
All right, and introduce, who did you bring?
This is my mom, Heather, this is my dad, Will, and that's my little baby brother, Max.
All right.
All right. Oh, you can stay up here with the photo. Oh no, I guess we're sorry.
This is my mom, Emily.
Hi. Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
You didn't know you were going to have to come up here, did you?
This is my mom, my baby dad, and this is my baby brother, Will.
Hi, Margarita. Thank you so much.
A little bit.
Hi. All right.
My mom is the one sitting with the little baby child.
Bring them up, bring them up.
Go get 'em. Yes, please. You want to introduce?
She's Kelly. And that's my little baby sister, Mabel.
Very nice. Thank you so much for coming. All right, you ready for the photo? All right.
Eric, you want to do a little photo? Yeah,
Yes,
teachers
yes.
and Judith too. Come on up.
Where do you want us? Here?
Yeah, come on in the middle. I like your magic wands. Can you get everybody?
Oh, yeah, we got everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, team, 1, 2, and 3. Oh, that's beautiful. All right.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Bears.
Thanks for coming. You know, I knew your dad in high school. I did. And I knew your grandpa too. I did. It's true.
All right. Thank you so much.
See you later.
Really appreciate it.
Oh, and your Aunt Caitlin? Yeah, her too.
Play ball with Wilshire too.
All right, we are going to move on to the next agenda item, which is communication. So we have report out from closed session, which we don't have anything to report out from our closed session. No decisions were made. And the next item is public comment regarding items that are not on our agenda tonight. So if any member of the public ever would like to come and speak to the board on anything that they would like to share with us, we always have time at the beginning of the meeting for items that are not on the agenda for anyone to come and talk to us about. So do we have anyone who wants to speak to a topic that's not on the agenda? This would be the time to do it. Just tell us your name, and then you have 3 minutes to tell us what you'd like to talk to us about.
Great. My name is Ramona Little-Taylor, and thanks to the board for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. So, Ramona Little-Taylor. I have many roles, including being a member of the Parent Guardian Equity Task Force for Ross Valley School District. And most importantly, the role I carry with me daily is the role of parent to a child at Brookside who is invited to speak with you all tonight regarding equity and action in the classroom. The focus of my public statement is to remind us all of our why, which is to support children to receive a public education. I'm so impressed with the kids who are showing bravery and speaking to a room full of adults tonight. I hope you listen, and I hope we all listen. Nico shared this activity with us, and we were so excited to hear how identity was centered in the classroom. I know that there are many questions about what is equity, and so I would like to share a definition that our family embraces. Marin has incredible natural beauty and resources and is frequently ranked the wealthiest, healthiest, and best educated county in California. Yet, systemic inequities in schools and communities continue to limit what's possible for many children of color and youth living in poverty, resulting in some of the greatest disparities in the state. Marin County ranks second in the state in racial disparity, and this is unacceptable. I'm happy to support RVSD, the board, the teachers, the staff, in particular the staff of color, and the community to fully embrace and realize an equitable future where all children, including low income and students of color, can truly thrive in the education system that was never built for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate hearing from our community. Thank you. So now we have board announcements. And these are any information that board members would like to share with each other on things that have been happening since our last meeting. These are not committee report outs, just announcements of activities in the community or anything. There's anything? Yep.
Back in December, there was the education conference down in San Diego. I wasn't able to go in person, but we signed up to do online viewing of the different sessions that they offered. And so I've watched 7 of them now. And I found them to be very helpful. A lot of them were talking about equity and inclusion and different ways to increase that in your district. So I think that was really helpful. There was a lot about communication with the community. And then there were there's one on well-being and mental health that I found to be really useful. But there's 7 of them that I watched. So if you have access to that, I would definitely recommend watching them. They're helpful.
Thank you. Any other conversations? No? Okay. Correspondence and communications to the board. This is on our agenda to just, this is where we put any emails or communications that we have between meetings that come to the board so that we have access to the same information as the public does. So all of the communications with the board in between meetings are posted on our agenda under this agenda item. And we all read our agendas before we come here and then read all of those public communications to us in that way as well.
And there is one.
And there is one.
Yeah,
this
it
time.
was, came in yesterday.
Yeah.
So after the agenda was posted. So anything that was received, that by the time the meeting went live on Friday, it was put up there, but there weren't any this time. And then we did receive one yesterday that was put up today.
Got it. Thank you. Yep.
There was one on Friday.
Oh, there was one on Friday. Yeah, there was one.
Oh,
and then
that.
another
Yes,
one
you're
today.
right. Okay, sorry about that.
All right, we are now on to our presentation action item section of our agenda, which is where we have either presentations for information and discussion or items that we actually take action on. We have 3 of those tonight, and the first one that we'll start with is public disclosure and sunshining of the initial contract proposal for the 2022-23 school year from the Ross Valley Teachers Association, RVTA, to the Ross Valley School District. The way that our these agenda items run is that we'll have a presentation, then there's clarifications from the board, questions for clarification from the board, then we'll go out for public comment on the agenda item and then bring it back to the board if there's any further discussion or if there's a vote on it. This particular item does have a discussion and a vote, so.
It's, yeah, I mean, and tonight the action is only to acknowledge receipt.
Right.
So this is we haven't begun negotiations for the 22-23 school year. We have to have a sunshine of initial proposals. And so that's what is before us this evening is the Ross Valley Teachers Association's initial proposal to the Ross Valley School District for contract negotiations for this current school year, 22-23, and it is an opportunity for anyone in the public to give comment on so it's sunshining, it's bringing to light what the proposal is. And then once that the sunshining part has ended, then we may begin negotiations. So tonight is the sunshine. And so we have something a little different this evening than we've had in our past years, which is RVTA is going to do the presentation of their initial proposal. And so they have the initial proposal is here attached, as well as what was Karen was able to send us last night, Tessitor, our union president, is the PowerPoint presentation. So that will come up. And are you going to do this alone, Karen, or do you have others? A team. All right, there you go. All right, yeah. All the team. Okay,
I'm not alone today.
All righty, so come on up.
Right, the audience of one.
All right. When do I start it? As soon as it's up, Karen, then you can flip it.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Okay.
All right, thank you.
So, good evening. We are the Ross Valley Teachers Association bargaining team. I am Karen Tessitor. I am president of the union and a teacher at White Hill Middle School.
I'm Emma Beauchamp. I am a teacher at White Hill.
And I'm Tyler Higgins. I teach at Wade Thomas.
And I'm Mitch Brown. I'm a teacher at Manor.
Okay, so here we are, our initial contract proposal for the 22-23 year. Ross Valley School District students deserve the best. To support our students, the Ross Valley Teachers Association is opening the following articles of the collective bargaining agreement. Article 3, wages. We seek to increase compensation so that Ross Valley School District is competitive in the county in order to attract and retain qualified professional staff because our students deserve the best.
Article 4, health and welfare benefits. We seek to increase district contributions to member health and welfare benefits to attract and retain qualified professional staff because our students deserve the best.
Article 6, hours of employment. We seek to ensure teachers have time to develop innovative lessons, provide essential feedback to students and their families, and to differentiate lessons to meet the needs of each student. We seek to review the schedules of our enrichment opportunities for students because our students deserve the best.
Article 9, class size. We seek to reduce class size and increase the adult to student ratio to improve student success because RVSD students deserve the best. We're united that the Ross Valley School District students deserve the best, and we look forward to opening negotiations with you this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will, unless there's any clarifying questions, which we normally have. But
I have a comment.
Okay.
My daughter Kaylin is in 8th grade, and my daughter Charlie is now at Archie Williams. And I look through this room, and I know a lot of you. And as a parent, I'm very happy and pleased and proud of you. And as a trustee, I never really get an opportunity to say that in a forum like this, but I want to take the opportunity because you mean a lot and you are important. And I personally have benefited in my household and my children, and I'm just one parent. And I know all of you in this room do this because you love our children. And I certainly don't do this job for the paycheck. I do it because I love our children too, and I'm just really proud of the group that we work with, and I just wanted you all to know that.
All right, we will now go out for public comment. So we've got a lot of people here in the audience, and we usually do 3 minutes per public comment, and that's why we ask for the cards ahead of time so we can take an assessment of how long and whether that needs to be adjusted so that for time's sake. So I'm looking here at 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we're going to go 3 minutes public comment of the comments that I have up here, and I'm just going to kind of shuffle them up so that people can come up in a random order.
Do you want me to time?
Yes, thank you for being a timekeeper again.
So it'll give you a 2.5 minute warning, and then you'll have 30 seconds left.
Got it. So I'm just going to go ahead and read your name, come up. 3 minutes. When you hear the beeper, you got 30 seconds. So Danielle Diaz. Welcome back up to the podium.
Hi.
Hi. And please,
not first.
3 minutes.
Okay. So my name is Danielle Diaz. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Brookside. I've been working in this district for 17 years, believe it or not. I have 2 children that go to school at Brookside and at White Hill, so too I'm also a parent in this community. I am a hardworking teacher and a parent in this district, and I have dedicated many years to the success and the progress of the students and community of the Ross Valley School District. I'm speaking up today because, first off, for all the reasons that the union just expressed to you guys, but I'm speaking up because in the past several years, especially since the pandemic, as we all know, I've really seen a change in the passion and the energy and the dedication of our district's teachers. I'm concerned for the well-being of our staff and our students as the demand on teachers has really increased. You see us doing all this work with equity and with prepare for standardized test scores and in making sure that we are really balancing our education for all of our students and for all types of students, working with special day students coming into the classroom. And on top of it, our class sizes have continued to increase. I have 24 general ed students and plus 4 that push in for SDC, so there's 28 bodies in there, and it's a lot to handle. And as this demand of teachers has increased, our salaries and our benefits have really not kept up with the pace of the increase of the demand that teachers have had. And I've been here for a long time, and it has just continued to add on. And when I tell people what I get paid every year and how big my class sizes are, people are generally shocked. And this constant demand without compensation has really put a toll on our teachers, increased our stress levels, and has compromised our immunity. Like this year I was hit with COVID, second time. I had back-to-back illnesses due to my high stress levels, balancing schoolwork, children and childcare, financial concerns. I've missed almost a month of school this year, and this has not only a direct impact on my health, on my wallet, but also my students. This lack of instruction from their regular teacher for almost a month has caused us to be behind in instruction, put on pressure to catch up before assessments, and may have an effect on our standardized test scores. In addition, I have many students who need extra emotional support this year, and I really have not been able to be there for them as much as I would like to be. All of these things have a direct impact on the community of the classroom and the well-being of each of our students. In addition, as we all know, living in Marin County is extremely expensive and the cost of living is well beyond the average. As a full-time veteran teacher in the district, I should be able to afford to buy a house, 30 seconds, right? And a new car and invest in savings for the stability of my family's future. However, on my current salary, I am not able to do that. I don't have a husband who can pay for a medical benefit, so everything is out of pocket for my whole family. I have needed the support of my own parents to be able to continue to live here, and if I did not have that support, I would not be teaching and living here. However, there are teachers that do not have this privilege, and the turnover at our site has increased dramatically in recent years. We are going to lose valuable teachers, and in turn, our students and our community will suffer. We are such an amazing school and an amazing district, and I love working here, but I don't want to jeopardize the future of our community. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right, the next is Eric Brandt.
Thanks for letting me talk tonight. I'm Eric Brandt, and I've been teaching for 22 years, I think, in this district. So over that time, I've taught at 2 different schools, and I've taught 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Definitely with all that experience, over the years, seeing our compensation, I'm also at the top of the pay scale. So, my only raises at this point come when they're granted by negotiation. So I'm always hoping, fingers crossed, that we're getting more. I was glad to see that the sub pay went up a little bit, and I would love if our pay went up the same percentage, which I think was about 13% or something like that. Over the time I've been here, I've probably mentored, 20 or 25 brand new teachers, student teaching or new teacher through BITSA. The compensation for doing that has not changed in like 20 years either. So I'm not motivated to help new teachers anymore because there's the one person that stayed in my district is Sarah. Everyone else has moved on. They can buy a house in Petaluma. There's a better commute if they work in Mill Valley or Tiburon. So I've really chosen financially, probably to my own detriment, to stay here because there are better paying districts within cycling distance from my house. So I've stayed here, and I really am proud to work and teach the kids that are right here in my own town that I live in. But seeing them on the street is great, but it really isn't financially the smartest move for me. So I would ask that you think morally, when you have teachers that are, commuting long ways, or I'm just training teachers to go somewhere else, it feels bad for me to say, I don't want to help you, but it's just, I'm just training them and they leave, and I train them and they leave, and I train them and they leave. So there's really no, there's not a lot of incentive for me to help other people besides myself, or people that are right there with me. And I'm really happy at my school, and I love my, principal and the students, all that right there is what's kind of keeping me here. And saying we want you on this committee or won't do extra stuff, but there's barely any pay for it. The per diem we get per hour to be on leadership things, really, that has not changed for a long time either. So, I feel like an old person that should be spending my time supporting the next generation of teachers coming into this, and there's really not a whole lot of upside for me. Just to say, you're going to feel good about it, and that's it. There's not a lot of feedback that way. Okay, I just hope that the negotiations go well. We deserve it, and I think that, I have a lot of pride in the board and all of you guys being here. I do it for the money. I do love my job, but, we need to feed our families too. So, thanks for.
Katie Frank.
Okay.
I just want to take a moment first to point out Eric's amazing red shoes.
All right.
Hi, I'm Katie Franken. I teach 7th grade English at Whitehall, and I've been doing it for a very long time. I've been in the district for more than 16 years, and I also love it here. I live here in the community. I sent my kids to our schools, and I wouldn't want to be really anywhere else. And I just want to say, especially at Whitehall, we've seen so much turnover. I love what I do. I love working with colleagues. And every time I have new colleagues join us in the English department, I really do like to open and welcome their fresh ideas. And we sort of revamp the curriculum every time that happens. And that's a lot of sort of starting all over again. I think it's important when new teachers do come into the district that we give them the opportunity to share their ideas, but it's also really hard when we continuously lose those colleagues and see them scattered throughout the county. It's demoralizing and it's exhausting. So it's also keeping us from building that curriculum that much further with teachers that stay. We could go deeper, we could do more. And because it is exhausting, it really does sap us of the energy that we need to be able to give our students even more. At Whitehall, we have amazing clubs. I love having a literature club. I love promoting the love of independent reading, especially at the middle school level. And one of the things that I love to prepare students for is to prepare for the Margie Burke Speech Tournament, which is a county-wide amazing speaking tournament where we compete against private and public schools. I love to see our students shine in that venue, and it's the extra effort that, quite honestly, I just don't have the energy to do when I'm busy helping new teachers and rebuilding curriculum. We do have students with more needs, and that's also something that's been an additional challenge for us. The last thing I want to say is that I absolutely do love Ross Valley School District, and I see us as a family. And as a family, as a community that cares about the educators that are here and cares about keeping us intact as a family, I think it's very important for the teachers to see that you're not only gathering our input, but you are going the extra distance to do all you can as a small district to compensate us, to show us that you really do care and you want us to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Pete, come on up and let's see your shoes.
I feel underdrafted. I just want to tell you guys, by the way, the ventilation in here is horrible. I brought my expensive CO2 monitor, and it's 1,800 parts per million, which is really, really high. It should be around 700 or 900. So really bad ventilation in here. So I want to say that I came here and I was like, wow. I felt like I'm a little nervous. I don't normally talk to the board about things like this. And then, hearing what Ryan said and seeing all of you, so many of my son's teachers are here in this room also. And I kind of getting a little choked up, because we do love this district and we love the families. We love working with all of you. We are so grateful to the board for all of your volunteer work and hard work. And also, all of this is so true, and I want to tell you that because I work at all the elementary schools, and I work with the teachers at Whitehall often, in my role as lead music teacher, I talk to a lot of teachers, every week, and they say, hey, how you doing, Pete? And I'll say, wow, I feel really tired, I'm really exhausted. And they go, yeah, me too. And I love my job. I have such a great job. I get to sing and dance and play instruments with little kids, right? It's the best job in the world for me, because I love to do that. But, like, for the first time in my life over the last couple of years, I've been starting to think, like, wow, this job's really hard. I'm really tired all the time. Is there something else I could do to make a living? I can't afford to buy a house here, but I love living here, so I'm still renting. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But, you know, like, I'm so exhausted all the time and emotionally drained. So many of our students, I feel like more than before the pandemic, of course, have so many social and emotional needs. And we're trying to meet every child where they are and help them. I'm trying to teach them the best I can, the curriculum I'm teaching, but also trying to be an excellent model of helping them learn to be the best human being they can be, right? It's so hard. It is so tiring. And those classes where I happen to have an aide come in to help with the students, it helps so much. Support for teachers with aides. I mean, of course, salaries. We need to retain our teachers with salaries. All of the stuff that the bargaining team talked about, but I feel like whatever happens with the negotiations this year, I feel like our community and teachers and school boards around the state need to advocate with the state and with the people of California and with the legislature. There needs to be a revolution in funding for schools. We need to have aides in every classroom. We need to have smaller classrooms, class sizes at every school if we're going to really help these kids with what they need. And I know the district's in a difficult position with money, but the teachers need help, and the students need help. And so we thank you for whatever you can do.
Thank you. Anna Schnell.
Hi, my name is Anna Schnell, and I've been teaching at the Hidden Valley for 19 years. I also have 3 children in the district. As a parent and a teacher, I'm very concerned that we are one of, if not the lowest paid district in Marin. As the teacher shortages increase, teachers will leave to go to districts that pay more. We are already seeing the effects at our schools. At Hidden Valley, we only just recently hired a credentialed PE teacher, and there's still one opening. This means for almost 1/2 of the year, our students have not had a consistent PE teacher. Our teachers are dedicated to their jobs, but with the added responsibilities that are placed on us with minimal compensation, if any, teachers are beginning to feel burnt out. Add on the financial burdens of this inflation economy, I'm afraid that we will lose many of the amazing teachers that we have and that we will not be able to attract new teachers. Up until this year, I had a son in preschool. Post-COVID, over the course of 1 year, his preschool tuition increased $800 a month. That was something that made each month a financial struggle for my family. I sincerely hope that our district decides to put children first and prioritize attracting and retaining qualified teachers. Thank you.
Diana Sotile. Diana Sotile. Thank you.
You bet.
Diana, thank you. Apologies.
Sure. Yes. It's recording, but it's not a microphone per se. Yeah.
Thank you to the board for your service to our community. I'm Diana Subtitulos, teacher at Hidden Valley, but I'm reading a statement from a colleague who couldn't be here, Christina Workman. She has a 3-year-old and it's their bedtime right now. So Christina writes, during the height of the pandemic, we were asked to jump higher and higher, and there's been no letdown or chance to take a breath. Teachers are exhausted and have not had time to process the trauma that the pandemic caused. At the same time, more keeps coming and is being piled onto our plates. Additionally, our staff meetings have been focused primarily on district-mandated professional development rather than time to brainstorm innovative ways to teach, which feeds our souls and inspires our students. Staff meetings used to provide time to check in and reflect with our colleagues and the needs specific to our sites. With all the equity work we've done, we are ready to dive in with new and fresh curriculum that is relevant to our students. But we need the time to collaborate, reflect on best practices, and professionally develop our craft so our students can benefit. Not having PE for almost half of this school year has put me and colleagues in a huge deficit of time. Without the 110 minutes a week of prep time, I wasn't able to keep up with all my work.
While we are grateful to have finally filled one of the 2 PE positions, we are never getting that time back, which adds to the feeling of never being able to catch up. The current teacher demands are not sustainable. People who love their jobs as teachers are burning out at a higher rate. The rising cost of living continues to go up, and yet this isn't being reflected in our pay. I will not be able to continue doing the work I love and I'm meant to do because I can't afford to live where I work, can't afford childcare to attend meetings like this one, and I can't afford to pay enrichment classes for my daughter. When the pandemic began, teachers took a huge leap, a leap to teach virtually and then hybrid. Now it's the district's turn to take a leap by paying us a competitive wage. To be one of the lowest paid districts in the county is insulting. Teachers will start leaving. I've never met a teacher in our district who isn't here for the right reasons. We all are here because we care about our students. We care about the future of our communities, country, and planet. I teach my students to be compassionate, critical thinkers, and to be change makers. Ross Valley School District can be a strong leader and change maker by paying their teachers what we are worth and meeting the increase in inflation. Ross Valley School District can be the change. When you respect your teachers, you respect your students, and that's the reason we are all here. Thank you.
Thank you. And William Jameson.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. Mr. O'Neill, I also wanted to thank you personally for your affirmations. I taught your daughter. She's an absolute pleasure. This is my 4th year teaching at White Hill. I'm the 7th grade Spanish teacher. I'm going to tell you a story from 2 years ago. I found myself in a peculiar position after having worked 2 years in this district to be the senior most world language teacher on my campus. Both of the teachers that worked before me left the same year for reasons not unrelated to financial insustainability. I, however, took the opportunity. I was rather enthused to be in such an influential position, working for a school district with amazing children and working with staff and colleagues that inspire me every single day. And so I went house hunting for the best that I could afford. I was hoping for something modest. I even had the absolute privilege of some help from my parents, and that gave me the hope that I could maybe find something. Nothing. And when I looked into my salary schedule to try to plan around when I could maybe find a home, I then realized that by year 9 of my career, so the year after next, my raise increases were scheduled to be $1,200 a year. So $100 a month, that's not going to keep up with my rent increases. So nothing. I have no way to find a home in the community that I absolutely love. And I can no longer teach the students that have brought me more joy in my entire career than I have in any other school district that I've worked in so far. And so I find myself in the position of fighting for a living situation so that I can hold on for a few more years to work here. And after that, I have to leave. I have to work for the money. I have to work for a family that I would like to have one day, and I would like to have the money to continue the legacy of the family that I had before me. But I can't do it with what we have now. And we deserve it. Your children deserve it. So where does that leave the World Language Program at White Hill, a program that I know that the families are invested in? That leaves us with the same problem. Couple of years, you have an excellent teacher, and they leave, and they start the cycle all over again, as various of our faculty members here have already pointed out. The work is exhausting. We deserve better, and I know that there is a way forward. So we thank you for your cooperation, and we thank you for your affirmations.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and sharing your presentation and sharing your thoughts with us. And I just want to bring it back up to my colleagues for any additional discussion. Again, this is sunshining the initial proposal. So this is the beginning of the conversation, not the end of the decision that we're making here tonight. And I appreciate all of you being here at the beginning, and knowing that conversation, will continue with staff, and we will be having more conversations about this. I don't know if there's anything.
I just would like to acknowledge the fact that everybody showed up and that we are hearing what you're saying. So thank you for coming to speak. So we are listening.
We have one more teacher that wanted to make a personal comment if it's possible.
Oh.
Thank you. My name is Alex Obenchain. Most people in this community know me as Mr. O. I'm in my 5th year of teaching science at Whitehill, and I consider myself incredibly lucky to be able to work with the students I do. They're fun, passionate, sometimes difficult, and always interesting. And over the past 5 years, I've been able to grow into a very confident and effective educator within this district. But now, in my 5th year here, I'm beginning to feel the way that it seems pretty much every teacher who starts at Whitehill begins to feel about this time in their career, where the grass is greener elsewhere. I feel appreciated by the students who in 7th grade tend to be honest and unflinching in sharing how they feel about you, sometimes brutally so. I feel appreciated by the families, and I feel appreciated by my incredible colleagues who honored me last year as Whitehill's Golden Bell recipient. You might have noticed that there was a pretty big piece left out of that list of appreciation, and that is the district. I was trying to think of a gentler, more graceful way to put it, but honestly, maybe that's not what we need right now. Maybe that 7th grade brutal honesty is what we need. This school and district are phenomenal places to learn and grow my craft as an educator, but I'm my own person with goals, not just a robot teacher. I would like to have a family. I would like to have a home, preferably in the community that I've grown to feel a part of and that I hope to spend my entire career supporting as a teacher. And these goals feel impossible in this district. I didn't become a teacher for the money. Nobody does. I became a teacher and I remain a teacher for the kids. I hate that I feel that I have to leave, but it just, again, you have these goals as a person that you sometimes have to put first. I love that I get to be here at middle school supporting these students during one of the worst times of most people's lives, middle school. And I cherish that time that I get with them, and I appreciate it more and more every day that I do it. Whitehill and the rest of the schools in our district shouldn't be feeder schools set up to constantly train and churn out great teachers before they're inevitably tempted to go elsewhere. We are better than that as a district. Students shouldn't have to say teary goodbyes every year to their favorite teachers because they feel forced to move elsewhere for better pay. We should be the place those great teachers want to land, not the place they start. The only goodbyes we should have to say to our kids are the congratulatory ones at graduation. I've seen countless friends over these last 4 years and great teacher colleagues leave every single year, and we can continue to sit by and watch our students have teary goodbyes to these teachers, or we can begin to appreciate them and pay them what they are worth. Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, there is a typo. It's not a vote, it is just discussion. So the type is discussion information procedure, the DV.
We're not a vote. No. Okay.
This
So
is
there's
just to acknowledge receipt.
This is to acknowledge the receipt that we have. I'm overwhelmed, but the one action that we're not taking an action tonight, but I am inspired to take an action. We were talking earlier today about an opportunity that the board has to go to Sacramento later this month as part of the Legislative Action Committee for the Marin County School Boards Association that we participate in. And so I am looking forward to going to that. I wasn't necessarily planning on going to that. In fact, we were just talking about, do you want to go? It's an all-day thing. And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to go. I've gone before. I've gone sometimes before. But I do feel inspired to go and to take your message with me when I go. And I feel grateful that we have a recording of it. And I'm not quite sure exactly how I can take it with me, but the idea of creating, there's our conversations and then this idea that this is also a state conversation. Mm-hmm. So what I personally feel like I can do shortly is to help take that and to take your message with me to Sacramento at the end of this month to go to the legislative action committee work. So I'm going to make that commitment here to you all tonight, and then this conversation will continue. So thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And now I'm going to take a breath before I move on. All right.
You want to take a break?
Do you want to break briefly? So
No. Well,
I just think
I will break. I will take a break briefly so that if for those of us in you who want to go back. Okay, we are back from a short break and on to item number F2, which is our recommended approval of the annual audit report for the 2021-22 school year.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak about our audit report this evening. We do have a copy of the audit report attached to the agenda, and it's my pleasure to have Stephen Roach with Stephen Roach Accountancy here. Mr. Roach is obviously he's the owner and founder of the company, but he also is the one who directly works with the district. We will be rotating through because they have to rotate for next year. So we'll still be using his firm, but it will be somebody else here next year with us. But he's here to present the audit report to you this evening.
Good evening. I'm just going to go through it rather quickly, but I'll stick around as long as you have questions on anything in the report. Page 1 of the auditor's report is the independent auditor's opinion on the financial statements. And this opinion for the district is a unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements contained within this report are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. It's the best opinion you can receive on your financial statements, the one you'd like to see in your report each year. I'm not going to go through all the individual financial statements. And the reason why I'm not going to do that is because we did not make any audit adjustments to any of the numbers that were included in your unaudited actuals that you approved back in September. So it's exactly the same financial information, just put in a financial statement form. Why I like to kind of point that out is you don't want to see a lot of changes from the numbers that are presented to you. It's kind of about credibility. You know, it's a good sign that they're already presenting us the information in a manner that complies with generally accepted accounting principles without us having to make any changes to those numbers. Overall, there were not any significant issues financially that we saw. We saw that your fund balance over the last 2 years basically increased by approximately $3.5 million. A lot of that's dealing with a lot of the COVID money is probably flowing in here as well. The long-term debt of the district dropped pretty substantially, about $25 million. And $1 million of that was your OPEB liability decreased, and that's probably because a lot of people leaving the district. There was also a $10 million decrease in the general obligation bonds, and that was related to a crossover refunding that was done some years ago where the money was sitting in Fund 51, but this year they actually paid off, I can't remember exactly what it was, almost $10 million of debt. So that was a big chunk of it. And then another thing, which everyone in the state got the benefit of, is the net pension liability for STRS and PERS. There was a substantial decrease in that liability, and that's due to a number of things: investment earnings, contributions that were made by the state in addition to what they were required to do in the past couple of years. So that money went in there. And then also the districts have been paying a higher rate into STRS and PERS based on the rate schedules. So with that, you know, that's a good thing that that number is coming down. A lot of it was things that took place within STRS, not necessarily the district, but it also shows up as a big decrease for your district as far as the liability. Next, I'm going to have you go back to your one and only finding that was reported. That's on page 81 of the report. And this finding dealt with the fact that at Whitehill they had flooding at one of your school sites this past year, so the district was unable to open on that one school day. And basically following the guidance that was kind of suggested from the accounting office, it looks like, the district basically did not make up that day on one of your built-in school emergency days, and instead applied for the J13A waiver. And the state has been very, what should I say, inconsistent, I guess I would say. It's been very hard to judge which way they're going on a lot of these things here. So there's been a lot of confusion, just like people recommended that you just go for the J13A waiver. That's because people don't know. And I've seen it in a lot of districts this year where there's a lot of confusion and people got stuck this year with not having enough school days, similar to you guys, because they canceled or denied that J13A waiver because they had a built-in school day that they did not take. So that caught a lot of districts off guard, and you guys were in the same situation. I'm hoping that the state would look at this. Overall, the students at that school site were actually provided with over 3,800 minutes more instruction than they were required to receive under state law. However, because you didn't meet the minutes for that day, you get dinged for providing only 179 out of 180 days, where you get the penalty of $30,000. So hopefully they'll be reasonable when you appeal that. But I can't give any guarantees at this point because the state, like I say, has been kind of inconsistent on how they're doing that. Sometimes what they'll want you to do is make it up in future time period, which, since it was only one site, makes it kind of a difficult thing to deal with as well. So, and then there's a cost associated with that, so you might compare that to the $30,000 and see where you actually want to end up on.
And so one of the things we'll be doing is going back to them and working through the County Office of Education, because it was their direction. They gave the direction at a CBO meeting, so it wasn't just impacting us, they were giving the direction to others as well. And you know, we even verified, are you sure? Because even with those additional days, and they're, no, absolutely, they will approve it. And when it was denied, the county assistant superintendent went back to them and was questioning it, but I haven't heard back if she received a response. So we will be filing that additional request that they review it one more time with the understanding that it was the district taking our lead agencies, which is the County Office of Education, what they're telling us and directing us. So they've got those relationships directly with the state.
And just also noting that the state did not respond to the waiver request prior to our being out of school. So we didn't receive notification that it had been denied until after
we received it around the middle of June.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is now a good time? So how do they expect you to make up a school day with a prior school year with an entirely new set of students and entirely new? They really think that you can actually add a day?
You know, that's what they have you do. I don't think they seem to really care that it's not that same group of students, so it was shorted. But however, like I was kind of mentioning, for your district, those students received thousands of minutes of instruction more than they were required to in the first place. So to hold you fiscally accountable when you're already providing well above what's required,
Yeah.
you know, it seems like reason would say, okay, you know, this was a weird situation. They were not shorted at all on their minutes per se, so you would think that it would be a pretty easy thing for them to waive, but you just never know with the state right now. They already surprised me, so.
They make up their rules as they go.
As they
This
go.
is one of those things that also the school services really stressed at the at their recent workshop. They've never done that before, but they were talking about it this year. I've been in school finance for over 20 years. I've never heard them talking about the J13A waiver. They did in numerous slides, which goes to show that this is not a unique issue for Ross Valley.
Is it possible that the county would be able to, because they kind of gave us the go-ahead, that they make up the difference? And if the state won't give it to us, can we just present a waiver to the county? Say we'd send them the bill.
We could certainly ask, but they would have to approve it. They would have to agree to it.
Of course, they'd have to agree to it, but there's nothing wrong with asking for it, right?
Clarification, do we file an appeal directly with the state? So we're going to file an appeal directly with the state, not go through MCOE to do it?
I will be working with MCOE because generally, even the J13A waiver, we file it, so it gets approved by the governing board here, then goes to the County Office of Education where their board approves it,
Oh,
and then goes to the state.
okay.
So I would imagine, and I don't know for sure because I haven't followed up at this point, it's probably the same process.
Does it kick back to county? Because if it goes to them and then goes up, does it come back to them and then back to us?
No, it would normally come directly to us at that point.
And,
Keep it.
And I was even inquiring prior to school being out, well, what's the status of this?
And you have documentation on all that?
There was an email
Okay.
that I know I was talking with Kate Lane. I believe there was an email, it may have been verbal.
And is there any, in terms of the audit itself, and the the writing of the audit and the assessment of our financials, and then do you, Chris, feel that it's sufficiently explained in some sort of documentation of the particular situation of what you've explained here, just so that if somebody were to pick up this document and our financials and the audit kind of out of the blue and look at the headline that says, you got this thing, that it would be sufficiently explained in the document itself for posterity, future, what the situation was and what we did to rectify it and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty well explained within page 81 and 82.
Okay, just make sure.
And I don't know
It's
if
also
you-
another slide.
Did you actually go to the Education Audit Appeals
I haven't
panel
done
website?
that.
You might look in there, because that's the thing I recommended was the summary review process.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Yeah,
like a preliminary thing you can kind of do, that hopefully you don't have to get the attorneys involved and stuff if you run it by there first, and then if that doesn't work, then you might have to pursue further. But,
It also makes note of it on page 69
Yeah.
of the audit report where it actually talks about the instructional minutes.
Yep.
and actually what you might want to do is play your video of all your teachers speaking about how much, you're in a situation where you're surrounded by basic aid districts where, they're constantly talking to people, and you are in a situation where you cannot offer them as much because you're funded differently and you don't have as many resources as a lot of those other districts. So it's a little bit unfair almost, but it's kind of what you have to live within your funding mechanism. But it could also be, like I say, more of a hardship, because if they implement this, that's even making it even harder for you to, get your teachers up close to your neighboring districts.
And so we will have another agenda item coming back to us at some point where we actually have to approve the J13A
I'm
waiver.
going to be looking at that report, how to file the appeal. And I will take a look to see, more than likely, they're going to require something because they require us to take the initial.
Uh-huh.
And so we will be going through and taking a deeper look at that.
And just a heads up, the state is very far behind reviewing reports. So even like today on the state controller's website, and they still have almost 500 school districts that have not been, their audit reports have not been reviewed from the 2020-2021 year. So they're kind of far behind on a lot of this process, so nothing's going to happen anytime soon, I would say.
Okay.
Sometimes they will go ahead and grab the ones that have findings and move it a little bit further, but it's going to be a lengthy process probably. But the summary review, I think, is your best bet to go there to start off with. And
Any other clarification? Any other questions? And just for anybody who might be listening, we've got a couple people in the audience, so with that audience or we're not, no public comment on this. All right, any other accounting audit?
One other thing, generally this would come back with a more detailed explanation on all findings, and so that should be coming back to the governing board. I don't remember the timeline, but it's required because then that goes back to the County Office of Education as well.
On this particular,
Yes.
because this is the one area that requires that back.
Anytime there is a finding.
Got it.
Because they want to make sure that the district is addressing it.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll add that additional documentation then for the future.
yeah, and since it's state compliant, you'll also have the response to the state, of course, on that. But
And our action tonight is actually to vote on, to approve the annual audit report that we've received. Okay.
Can you make a motion? All right, I make a motion that we approve the annual district audit report for the 21-22 school year.
Okay.
I will second.
Motion and a second, we'll vote. Rachel?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
And Shelley, aye. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming in and helping. Thank you, Stephen.
Appreciate your help.
The next item is the recommended approval of the 2021-2022 2021-22 School Accountability Report Cards, the SARCs, which are published during the 2022-2023 school year for Brookside, Hidden Valley, Manor, Wade Thomas, and White Hill.
All right, and this one is Eric.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So every year around this time, we bring to the board for approval the school accountability report cards for our 5 campuses. And components that the SARC the details include demographic information, school safety and climate for learning, academic data in the form of CASP testing, generally speaking, class size, teacher and staff information, information on curriculum and instruction and textbooks, professional development, fiscal and expenditure data, facilities status, parental engagement and involvement. So it's pretty wide ranging. And I just first of all want to thank our site principals at all 5 schools, Mr. Carson, Ms. Walcott, for their collaboration in preparing these reports. Also too, there are a number of fields that are auto-populated from information from the CDE. And so those are things that we get help from our the third party that helps us put these together and submit them to the state. One thing that the CDE hasn't done yet is release teacher preparation and placement and credentialing information about the 21-22 school year. So in each of the reports, you'll see that that's blank with an explanation. They anticipate that at some point the CDE will release that. But the reason why these are coming to you not 100% prepared is because we're required to post these on our website before or on February 1st. So this, I believe, occurred last year too, when that's populated, assuming board approves them, and we can post them, then we can just repost the updated SARCs. And again, it's a very small segment of the report pertinent to, again, teacher credentialing primarily. On our website, we have kind of a SARC landing page, and it's kind of cool because you can see SARCs from the past 5 school years, all the way back to 17-18. And again, it is a report on last school year, so we're always looking back a year when we're looking for approval. I just wanted to ask the trustees if there were any questions in particular about any aspect of the SARCs, the process.
I have a question about how you're determining the socioeconomically disadvantaged if lunches are now free to everyone. And I know that was an indicator in the past in identifying those kids and families in need. How are you identifying that population now without that data to help?
We are still asking families to complete the free and reduced applications, so there have been at least 4 communications out through newsletters like our RVSD updates. We sent direct notifications because there's a lot more benefit to families than just what may come to us. As an example, with the state's college prep fund, there's an amount that a family can get if they qualify per child, but they have to complete the application. It's recognized at the state level that with all lunches being free, it's going to be extremely difficult for districts to continue to get this information. And some of our funding is even based on whether or not we can identify the students. And what we know is from all students who prior years have completed, Jenny Wright in our business office, she reaches out directly to the families to ask them to complete the form every year. And so we'll be doing that direct outreach. But as more and more of those children age out of our school district, then it could definitely be harder. And I was reading an article the other day that did talk about the state is going to have to figure out a way to ensure that districts can continue to gather this information. Because it really is, it's based on family reporting.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, there is just one minor caveat as well. Anybody who might be receiving services in something else, for example, let's say they're receiving Medi-Cal, we would get their information as a direct certification from the state. So they would tell us automatically that those students qualify because they're receiving it. So some of the families, because we know that, we already have it, we don't need the actual form from them.
So the state can look at the families and know that they're connected to Medi-Cal or some other
So we do have some of
information
that.
and tell us.
If they don't complete that form, do they get those benefits that Marcy was talking about?
Actually, I think they're direct certified, so I think they would qualify already.
Okay.
So, but what Marcy's talking about are those that perhaps aren't receiving other benefits. If they're not filling out that form, then they may not qualify for those, or they may not qualify for other services, like discounted transportation, for example, is another.
It has traditionally been used as a metric for a lot of site-based and district-based decision-making. I know in my day job, when we look at a lot of disaggregated data, it has also come up. And I know if you look in between elementary schools and high schools, because lunch programs in high schools tend to not be as not as big of a deal, but it's not as well used, and there's a lot of drop off in self-reporting of that information because it was tagged to the nutrition. So I think it is logical to think that there will be a potential drop off since it's available to everybody. And I'm happy to hear the state, another reason to go to the state advocacy, legislative advocacy group.
Because we want to make sure we're having true capture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we did update, I forgot that part, is when we updated our food service page so that any family that goes there, they can see this directly on there as to, although we're all students are able to receive a free meal regardless of income level, we're still collecting the free and reduced meal applications. And here's why. So we listed all the benefits to the family. There are, so the district may receive additional funding, but the family might receive discounted transportation services for those students at White Hill and Hidden Valley, because that's where the yellow bus goes. Discounted internet services through Xfinity may be available. You may qualify for the PEBT benefits for the family, access to community programs, including the YMCA and local sports teams, and funding for your local schools, including school supplies, in addition to that college fund.
And one more question. You're looking at the student demographics of 2 or more races, okay? And I say this just from my own experience. I have kids that are half black and half white. And there are some kids that identify just outwardly as the race of color of which they are, or the 2 races. And I want to understand, when you look at the 2 or more races, especially in all those schools, it's pretty high because there's a lot of biracial children that are in our district. Is there any way to dig into that deeper to see the representation, especially when you have the equity statement in this document? I'm just trying to figure out how do we dig beneath that to really see the true ethnic profile of our schools? Just curious, because whenever we fill it out, we have to pick. You know, and I know that in some colleges, you get a chance to identify as both, and then they aggregate the data to divide that number to go to one to the other. Just curious.
That's
have
a great
we
question.
Thought about that?
We'll have to see if we can do it, because there's we ask what the state requires and how it goes into CalPads.
Yeah.
So Paula takes the information and then puts it into the into Aries, and then it gets uploaded. So we'll have to look at that as to how can we ask different questions, because I have heard there are some families that because of the questions that are asked, they don't feel they fit.
Exactly.
Right? Is that what you're
That's
getting at?
exactly what I'm
Okay.
getting at. And I'm also getting at the lens as to the diversity of our schools and how it's evolving too, because that really matters, right? So.
All right, that's a
See
great
what the
question.
numbers
So I
are.
may follow up with you again, Chris, if that's okay.
Sure, let's talk about
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Absolutely.
To make sure I fully understand, because I'll need to make sure we understand to ask the right question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have flexibility on our SARC reports to have other types of reporting besides what's on? So say there was some sort of change in the way that demographics are reported. Do the SARC reports allow for that? Do they have you can report this differently, or is it all just kind of templated that you it's really hard to shift up?
Great question. We do work off a template, that helps school districts, again, put in information from us and then have the things coming from CalPads, coming from the state, auto-populated. In terms of shifts to the template, it could be possible, in terms of if it's adding additional categories.
And local information that maybe, we can check that.
I mean, and in terms of the narrative segments that that a district is able to add, I mean, for example, there's school overview. That could, generally speaking, we keep it to a couple paragraphs. I mean, that could be 10 pages if we wanted it to be. There's nothing preventing a much, more kind of chapter book version of that. So, so long story short is yes, in certain ways, but also too with the agency we use to help us again compile all the information. We can ask them that question.
Great. Any other verification?
I noticed that when I was looking through them all that the scores for the buildings had improved since the last time I saw these reports. So thank you to the personnel who are working on that, because I'm very pleased to see those scores have gone up.
You mean at the end of the report where it says good?
Yeah, where it's like, yeah.
So I was just looking at the percentages of defects and how that, okay.
And where it's listing them.
So they were lower.
They were lower before, the last 2 years they've been lower, so those have gone up.
That's good.
Yeah.
Any public comment? No public comment. Anything else? Is there ever a requirement every 5 years or so to do like a longitudinal anything to show growth? Like I know there's a state movement around showing growth as far as CASP and student scores, but I don't know if that growth mindset translates to the SARC.
I think the SARC is a tool to use to do that in other ways.
Got it.
I mean, the comprehensive site safety plans that we're bringing forward, I think at the start of March, for board review and approval. Those have goals, for example, and year over year, that's one means of helping a school report out on its progress. The LCAP, I think, is probably the best example of really trying to look comprehensively at how a district is charting growth in key areas.
Okay.
So, and the SARC would be something to draw from.
Okay. So this is also a action item for approval of the SARCs that we have in front of us.
I move that we approve the 21-22 school accountability report cards.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. And Rachel?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shelley? Aye. We have approved our annual SARCs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on to our consent actions for this evening. We have 3 consent actions. Are there any issues with those consent actions or questions before we do them all in a motion as we normally do?
I have no questions.
Okay. Can entertain a motion for that?
Public comment.
Oh, no public comment. Sorry, thank you for reminding me. Yep, got a couple people here, so look out, no public comment, so. All right, so we can do a motion.
Move consent.
Motion for consent?
Second.
And a second. Rachel?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Shelley? Aye. Chris?
Aye.
Consent is moved. All right, on to board business, committee updates and reports from trustees. Do we have any committee updates? I went to a subcommittee, I believe it was, of the round table. It was a round table it was just the subcommittee, not the entire round table. And that group is continuing to work on updating the roundtable agreement, which is the agreement among all of the schools' parent groups on how they align with the revenue that they generate at the site, the fundraising that they do, and then how those funds are spent through reorganizing of the agreement and looking at it through an equity lens. And it was a great conversation, both in terms of the general conversation, but then they have basically taken all of their financial reports from all the PTAs and PTOs, looked across them with the help of staff, thank you very much, compiling all that information to see what's similar, what's different, what common expense areas they have, what expense areas are currently articulated in the roundtable agreement, to be able to see, here's where we're starting from, it's a baseline look at what is, before they then have the conversation around what it should be and how it might be reorganized. I was encouraged by the conversation around balancing parity with making sure that all students have the same opportunity for enrichment activities, beautiful campuses, and all of the kinds of supports that the parent groups provide to their campuses, and balancing equity and opportunity with flexibility in implementation. So that was the gist of the conversation, is how do we make sure that all students have equitable access to assemblies and field trips and those kinds of things, but without dictating that every site should go on these field trips and every site should have these exact same experiences. So those are the kinds of things that they're wrestling with. And then also just sharing back best practices across the different. So it was nice to see that conversation move forward. That's my report out.
I went to the Yes Board meeting. Let's see where are my notes on this. So they had some program updates for theater. They've got 5 plays or musicals in various stages right now. Manor's doing Newsies. Wade Thomas is working on Matilda. Brookside's doing Flat Stanley. Hidden Valley's doing My Lead Chase the Science Ace. And White Hill is doing High School Musical, which I hear the kids are really excited about. Just from my personal experience at White Hill. They gave us a DEI update. It was one of the priorities for Yes this current year to do more in that area. So they've been researching training options for paid theater staff. They're creating a database of resources for staff, and it was kind of hard with the timing of the hires for some of the directors, because some of them were like literally just the week before. So it was kind of hard to get training in place, but they're getting a list of recommended reading and required reading for those people who are being brought on board. And so they're consolidating all the info that they're getting, and they're planning to do more next year once they've got everything already in place, so they can begin sooner. At the elementary sites, Manor and Wade Thomas are working on identity, equity, and social justice units, and they're doing a lot of self-portraits. 4th graders did a poster of a social justice topic that they felt passionate about, and they made 3D sculptures based off the paintings. And if they weren't interested in doing a 3D sculpture of what they felt passionate about, they chose a different social justice topic. And the art teachers are reading the kids a lot of books that address those things in the art classes. White Hill, their fiber arts kids are doing a lot based on what they learned in elementary school, and they're working on slab construction with ceramics. There's digital art classes that are going on, and they're learning 2-point perspectives and observations with watercolors that are realistic and hyper-realistic and just lovely to look at. I get to see slideshows of the artwork, so it's really kind of neat for me. They are prepping for open house already, so they were looking for help mounting artwork and getting things curated, especially because they're going to be starting ceramics soon, which is kind of a high intensity job to kind of get done because it's a lot of being careful, but a lot of organization and prep work to get that stuff ready. For music, they have finalized their concert dates for the rest of the school year. They're trying to get them set earlier and earlier, but it's hard with a lot of things going on around the community in the spring. They are, they had a chorus concert last week. I heard that it went really well. I didn't get to go, but I heard good feedback about it. Let's see. I know that they're coming up. There's going to be, I think it's later, like in March and later, that there's going to be more concerts. Let's see, the dates are March 2nd is for the band concert, and then it's March 7th for violin and cello is what I had on the calendar for that. And then as far as fundraising goes, their financial update as of, when I went to the meeting 2 weeks ago, they were at $600,000 for the year, which is like 60% of the goal, and there's 36% participation district-wide. And in comparison to some other similar foundations in the county, it's similar, but there are a couple of others that are exceptional that just have a really good fundraising fund base. And so I think Larkspur Corte Madero is one of the ones they mentioned, Ross, but we're similar to others as well. And there's been some challenge getting fundraising going to pre-pandemic numbers. They are planning to do a big spring campaign that focuses on participation. It's about a 6-week cycle where they usually start it up and then they try and raise for the 6 weeks. And they're looking at different ways to communicate and kind of get the word out that, it's not a competition. It's more like just everybody just do what you can sort of messaging that they're working on. And they are finally getting back to some small, like organized activities and some that are bigger. So there's a British trivia night coming back, which was really popular and always sold out. So that's coming back. It's funny. There's a Perry's fundraiser. There's Battle of the Bands, which is a much bigger event, and then they're getting more dine and donate and parties with purpose. So that's great. I also went to the Safe Routes to Schools meeting. So they just gave us an update on the education that they're doing. They're planning to do some at Hidden Valley soon. They're also teaching kids about getting out of cars. They're teaching them the Dutch reach, is where when you're sitting in the car, you reach with the hand that's furthest away from the door to reach. So when you're opening the door, you're not going to door somebody riding in the bike lane. And so that is a huge push. There was an incident in one of our schools where, a family on a bike kind of got hit with the door. So it's one of those things that they're actively teaching all of their schools now and all of their students that they work with, because it's something that's very simple and it, saves people from getting hurt. There is a biannual meeting for parent volunteers for the entire County Marin coming up soon. I'm going to get the date for that. And then they're doing a walk and roll starting on February 1st, I think is the main one. And they're doing the Jedi Challenge, what they did before last year in March, April, and May again. And so I guess they had a really big response to that. So the kids had a lot of feedback and a lot more participation because they liked all the Jedi, Star Wars themed kind of messages going on. They are working on a Street Smarts campaign. So if you look around and as you're driving through all of Marin, actually, you'll see that there's new signage and banners and posters and things that are all over talking about safety, and there's just things about crosswalks, and there are all sorts of messages about like safer driving and walking and riding. And there's some banners on like the light poles and things, so they're all over. We got an update on the Butterfield Road Committee, because there's always a lot going on that road. There's so many schools along that road that there's a lot of feedback and a lot going on, and kids get to school all sorts of different ways on that road. So we kind of got an update on how they're doing with that. They did restripe part of the road past Hidden Valley back towards San Domenico, that direction. It's not all the way through. They had some issues getting it done, but they're working on kind of fixing that area up to make it safer for kids walking or biking in that area to get to school. They gave us town issues and updates. San Anselmo is trying to make more bike and pedestrian friendly areas. There's going to be an upcoming hub study. So at that intersection over at the hub, they're studying that right now. And then there's some work plan for 2022-2023 that includes a gap closure for the bike and pedestrian lane from San Rafael to Fairfax and into the valley. So there will be one continuous way for people to like bike and walk through there safely. So that's their longer term goals. They went over some of the main issues from the parent survey that they sent out in the spring. They got a lot of feedback, and so they just kind of gave us feedback on the areas that they saw as problematic and where there were suggestions for improvement. A lot of it actually was stuff that was already on their radar. So we got info on the bus program for next year. Michael's transportation contract ends this year, and so they're putting out an RFP this week, and they're expecting a decision in March. And they were talking about changes to the lottery process for parents that want to purchase a pass, because right now it's just a lottery. You kind of put your name in and see what random code you get back. And then on education, with more kids riding bikes and they're having bike rodeos, there's a request for them to start earlier in the school year and for younger children. Right now they start teaching bike rodeos and the bike safety and all that in 4th grade, but we're seeing kids at our schools going much, much younger with bikes. And so they were talking about starting those programs at the younger ages, since those children are getting to school on bikes or scooters, and it'd be good for them to have that safety information in practice. And so I think there was talk about showing a video to the younger kids if they couldn't afford to teach them in those grade levels. So at least they have the understanding and some awareness of, hey, don't do X, Y, Z.
And I took a look at the videos because I wanted to share them with all the principals, and they're really good.
Oh, are they?
And so we went over those this Monday, and they're at most of the grade levels. There's the English version, and then there's an English version with Spanish subtitles. And so they've talked about possibly having our PE teachers at the elementary schools do those with the kids. And so that way it can get, and when you just mentioned if they can't afford, they're looking at being short-staffed at Safe Routes to School and being able to have enough staff to actually push the learning down into the younger grades. And so they suggested the videos. Would be a great way to do it, and they are good.
Okay, I'm glad you got a chance to look. All right, that was all.
K through 8.
Okay. Yeah. So on the Safe Routes to School, I will add a lot of cars when they were coming down Butterfield would go to the Alameda to speed through to get to Fairfax, and they would there are a lot of near misses, kids getting hit. So I petitioned San Anselmo to put up a 3-way stop sign, which is now there. They finally,
I was wondering when that went in. Thank you, because I walk by there every day.
So they put it in, and had an officer recently I spoke to has been monitoring it quietly. Cars are stopping more, because at first cars were like, well, there's a stop sign here I didn't see before. But the next step is to perhaps install crossing guards for that area. But they have to get, there's a process for that. You have to get approved and everything. So at some point we'll have to talk through the committee to see how that can be done, because there are some people that want to volunteer, of course you have to background check all the other things that go along with that, but just wanted to point that out, that street has been coiled to keep kids from getting hit. So
thank you.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's appreciated. But yeah, ask about that more later.
Any other committee updates? We got more committee talk in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
For now, that's the updating part. Okay. No public comment. And item number 2, resignation of one of our
I'm
colleagues.
so sorry to see Marie go. As we all know, Marie started her first year as a chief business official, and I'm sure Chris can attest, he can tell us all what an absolute heavy load that is, especially when you're learning. I'm not just new in a school district, as an example, but Marie's new to school business officialing. She has held other positions in other school districts, but being a chief business official in a small district like Miller Creek and like Ross Valley, you're doing it yourself. You don't have a lot of staff, behind you. So even though there are others, but when you're looking at the financials and doing all of that. So Marie really wanted, as we all know, when we looked at changing our board meetings from Tuesdays, which were Miller Creek's board meeting nights, to Wednesdays, she wanted to stay. She wanted to complete her 4-year term. And unfortunately, just as she explained, it's the job is just too much, it's too demanding, and she needs to be a good mom, a good employee, and a good wife, and a good just community member. And as we might remember, Marie has done a lot in this school district before she ever became a trustee and went into school business. She was the Wade Thomas Parent Club treasurer. She helped, when they did not have a treasurer. And then, and she really wanted to be a CBO and went to school to do that. And so have to support absolutely what she did, but I know we are all going to miss her terribly and really appreciate all that she's done for our school district and for our students, not just as a trustee, but also as a parent in the community and a volunteer. And so tonight you all have the requirement to make a determination. So we are under now a timeline of within 60 days. There are 2 options based on the timing of Marie's resignation, and the option that fits for us based on the timing is you can appoint a qualified individual to fill the vacancy, and that would be a provisional an appointment. Because once the person, if you go that route, once the person is appointed, then there's like a 30-day wait period for anybody in the community who may not be happy about that appointment. They then have the opportunity to get a petition together, and if they collect enough signatures, then it requires the board to hold a special election. The other option you have is just to commission a special election. We did some initial recon on that just to see what would that cost. So to do the provisional appointment doesn't cost the district any money. It's just staff's time to do and get the information out there. And then of course at the board meeting, that's when interviews will be held and you would make the appointment. So that's just time, not dollars. But related to option 2.
Of value.
Oh, of course, absolutely. It's absolutely a value, but in terms of the financial, fiscal impact.
Yes.
And then option 2, though, we did a preliminary, this is just an estimate, of course, but Dan Miller, Teresa reached out to at the county elections, and just based on the number of registered voters in the towns of San Anselmo or Fairfax, so those are our constituents for our school district, based on the last election of the Board of Trustees, which we know just occurred in November 2022, it would cost the district roughly $183,000 to do a special election. And so I do recommend, this is just a recommendation, of course, you all get to determine how you would like to proceed, but my recommendation would be to go for the provisional appointment, and then if you go that route, then to have no more than 2 trustees, 1 or 2, because it can't be more, to work with staff, to work on the process, the procedures around that appointment and the related timelines. So we have 60 days to fill the position if we go with option 1, and you have 60 days to request the special election. It doesn't mean the special election has to occur within 60 days, but you just have to.
When does the special election take place if we were to choose that option?
There is one already on the books, and it's March 7th.
March 7th.
Yeah. And our deadline for, our 60-day deadline is the date that Marie submitted her resignation to the county superintendent, who's John Carroll, and she did that on January 11th. So
Well, then that's not 60 days to March 7th, right?
No, it's 60 days not to hold the election, but to determine that you're going to hold the election. So we
When would that, my question was, sorry, I think it wasn't very clear.
Yeah.
When would the election have to take place if we decided to go to the election route? When would the actual election?
I think it would be, because
June?
the timing, it would be the June.
June election.
Yeah.
And this is just until the end of this year, December
It is
2023.
through
Her term.
her term,
right.
so yes, so.
And then that person would have to go for re-election. at
Of
that
course,
point.
yes. And the same if there were an election, it would be to fill the position for the remainder of the term. That would take through November 2024.
What do you think is faster? Because my concern is that if someone wants to be elected, by the time this happens and then they're onboarded, we're looking at an effective board member, essentially, who, what value is it to give it that much time, considering it's the end of this year? Just curious.
It's 2024, November 2024.
So it's a year and a half. It's 2 years. It's two full years.
Okay.
And I mean, it seems to me just the costs alone of running a special election. Yeah, I don't know.
Are we required to advertise or?
There are, in the code, in the education code, it outlines everything that we would need to do.
For the appointment process.
For the appointment, yeah, for either. Yeah,
Either are prescribed.
It's all prescribed, yeah.
Right, okay.
Based on the lack of interest in people wanting to run for the position when it was open a few months ago, there was only 3 of us that actually ran. A couple of other papers. My own opinion is my opinion is we save the money and, appoint a position. If I thought it was contested, if I thought there was a lot of people really fighting for this role, I may not have that opinion because I like to have the people make a choice, but I just don't. I haven't seen a very contested election cycle in years. So I don't think that I don't think that there would be a wide variety of people that would even want to take that role as my own take based on what we just saw in November last year. So I would recommend that we appoint.
I would tend towards appointment just financially. I just don't see how we can, I mean, the only other question I had is, so if we want to do an appointment process and we don't get anyone or we can't agree on who to appoint, we would need to do it in a time frame that would then allow us to submit for an election should it be needed thereafter. Because I'm assuming it's the 260-day concurrently, or are they back to back? Do you have 60 days to do an appointment and then another 60? It's concurrent. Yeah. Okay. So from that perspective, then if you run out your 60 days doing your appointment process, at the end of that you gotta appoint because you can't do an election. So that's my only other caveat would be to.
Out of curiosity, what would be the procedure if no one wanted to be appointed and nobody pulled papers to be elected?
Then I think we have a 4-member board.
Okay. Not that I think that it's nice to have an odd number. I mean, it's very important for the process, but just to really air it all out there.
Rachel, do you have any questions or thoughts?
Given some of our earlier agenda items, I'm very uncomfortable spending $181,000 on an election for a partial term, even though I do feel like the democratic process is very important. I'm also looking at some of the other things we have to balance here financially. I hope we can find people who are interested in this role. But yeah, I think that probably given that information, an appointment would be my preference at this point.
Any public comment? No public comment. Okay. So just clarifying, the decision that we're making tonight is which of these avenues. The staff recommendation is that we pursue the appointment process direction and then form a 2-person ad hoc subcommittee to review the legislatively required steps that have to go through, and then set forth a calendar and a process with staff to execute on.
Is that something we make a motion on?
I think we should maybe do two motions. One is a motion of which direction, a motion to accept the staff's recommendation, and then we can have a conversation around who does that subcommittee, so.
I will make a motion to accept the staff recommendation to appoint a trustee for the remainder of the term.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ryan?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Shelley? Aye. Chris?
Aye.
All right. Who would like to help staff? Ryan?
I'll do it.
We'll do it.
I can do it too.
Ryan and Chris?
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We have our ad hoc subcommittee.
So
And go
our
forward.
just to be clear, our position would be to set up the process in which the four of us would then
Yes.
decide who would.
And it happens in public at an open session, so the applications of the applications of the persons interested, they are public. And then the questions that you have are public. The interviews occur in public at a board meeting.
Okay.
And your deliberation occurs.
And the amount of time, is it set by law, how long we have to leave that open to get candidates?
We have to complete it within 60 days.
Yeah, and so, no, it is, no, I did not read that at all in there, that it has to be advertised for a certain period of time.
Is that part of the process of the
It would be
procedure?
what we determine
Okay.
as working together, because we would backwards map
Yeah,
these
right.
60 days.
Yeah.
And then look, because in the event that, depending on the number of applicants, we may need to have a special board meeting in which to do this because of the other regular meeting agenda items that we need to do. And also in the event that, that you can't make a decision at one board meeting, we just need to be sure that we're making
Time doesn't run out.
that time doesn't run out. So we really need to backwards map and be tight on the
Proactive.
process.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Does that 60-day timeline, if we appoint somebody in that 60 days, if their provisional status is questioned, does that timeline extend, or do we still have that?
Starts from when the appointment happens.
It starts from when the appointment, they're provisional.
Okay.
And
So
then
30-day
they are,
provisional
they
once we
become no longer provisional, they just become the appointed trustee after the 30 days passes.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Now we are on to electing a trustee representative to replace Trustee Rio, to serve on the Marin County School Boards Association, because that was an elected position that Marie held, was the Marin County School Boards Association position.
So back at the December 14th meeting, there was president, clerk, alternate clerk, and an MCSBA. And so with Marie having resigned and she was the MCSBA rep, we'll need to replace her on that. And so we're going to be doing the same thing tonight as we did back in December, but just for that one position.
Got it.
And so,
And then after that,
we'll do committees.
we'll do the committees.
Yeah.
Just a quick question on the dates for the meetings on those.
Mhm.
There are dates for October 3rd and December 5th. Well, that's last year, and so those are not current. So there's only 3 meetings left this school year for this position.
Correct. There's one coming up.
Like, does it roll around to December?
The next one coming up is a February 6th. That's the one that's open. Again, these are also meetings that are open to other trustees to attend, like the one on the.
There's one on the 31st, which is next Wednesday. That's the dinner. That
Got it.
I can't remember exactly
Yes.
right off the top of my head. I think 3 of you are going to that.
Yeah.
And so the MCSBA is part of the executive board of the Marin County School Boards Association. So there's a rep from each school district, a trustee from each school district who serves as part of that executive committee. There are other events and activities throughout the year that the MCSBA hosts, but these are the dates of the meetings of the MCSBA executive board.
Yes. So those are the meeting dates for the remainder of this school year, but the term that we're electing would go through December of next year.
Okay.
So it would include
Next year or this year?
December of this year.
Next school year?
We're in
calendar year.
2023. Yes. Next school year, this calendar year, right, through December. So
that's roughly 5 meetings that we'd have.
So if there are any nominations, you can always nominate yourself or nominate another.
So they're always on Mondays, right? From 8:30 to 9:45.
8:30, I'm looking at the other, cross-referencing it with the other.
Are those in person or are they on Zoom?
Can't remember what Marie said. Does Zoom?
I know for a while they were on Zoom, but
I think they are.
I think they're on Zoom, but I don't know that they are going to stay.
Yeah, they may not. I can, let's see if we can get on the county website.
I would be open, I mean, I've gone to some, because even though I was an alternate, Marie and I did a few tag team things, especially when they overlap for some reason with JLAC. But that would mean that I might have to look at giving up something else. But I'm also open if somebody else wants to step into the Marion County School Board Association role.
You know, these are, you know, every 2 months, on a Monday morning. I can fill in for this. I can do it.
Okay.
So put me down.
Then I will nominate you.
Before you change your mind.
Great. Then I would nominate Chris.
do we have to second it or?
Mm-hmm.
I second it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion or a nomination and a second. Shelley, Rachel?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
And Chris, I'm assuming you accept since I nominated you and you kind of mumbled that you would do it, so.
Aye.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a email that I'm supposed to get on or?
Teresa will get you, yes,
Thank
she'll
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
and then you'll receive information. I think Brad Hansberger, I believe he's the Miller Creek trustee, and I think he's still the president or the chair, whatever they call that position.
And Teresa, thank you for all of your assistance in connecting us up with the calendaring of this and all the meetings. It's
Thank you.
really
So
appreciated. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and rolling along with that issue, that topic is the representatives, board trustee committee assignments. And so we have some committees with Wesley's name on them and some committees with Marie, who was on them, and then some committees that we've been on before, so.
And as we talked about at the last meeting, this is listed on the committee assignments. It's just what is currently. But you could wish to have one primary and an alternate for all of them, or even two primaries, because you can have up to 2 trustees be on any of these.
I have one question with respect to having them be committees versus ad hoc work groups or ad hoc, because I know, for example, there's 2 committees that have not really been active. They have like as needed, the facilities committee and the policy update committee. We don't need to keep these as I mean, those could transition to be ad hoc work groups as needed. I'm just thinking of the formal definition of a standing committee versus an ad hoc work group.
And I do believe that DFAC is a Brown Act compliant committee when it functions, but it doesn't always need to happen. And so I don't even know when the last time is when Rick was here either. When the last time is there was a.
And I'm just thinking of like having a committee that somebody thinks exists and then they haven't done any work and it can be confusing to our community to say, well, why aren't you guys, and think that maybe we're not fulfilling some sort of role that needs to be fulfilled as opposed to it's actually an ad hoc.
Are you thinking that we won't put anybody on those until we need to? Is that
that's what I was thinking and
okay.
and was if we transition those to be ad hoc
As
work
needed?
groups, ad hoc work groups as needed, and then filled when we have an issue. We do what we just did, which was we have an ad hoc work group. We need 2 people to be on it, and then at that point we select 2 people to run that ad hoc committee.
That makes sense to me. I mean, given we're short a person,
Yeah.
you know, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, unless there's some other.
I was just gonna say, what I can find real fast is the last time that we had one was in 2018 that I can see.
2018.
And it looked like it had to do with bond funds.
Okay. To which, if we
kind
were
of those
going through, I was gonna say, when we've talked about maybe doing another bond, then we
Right.
would say we have an ad hoc work group to work with Chris on a bond fund thing, and it would stay together and work with on that project and then move on. That would be my recommendation, is that those,
That's a good point.
that the policy committee and the facility advisory committee transition to become ad hoc work groups that we appoint as needed.
Do you want?
I know we don't really even have to, I mean, I guess these aren't formal,
Yeah.
we're not like really voting on who's on what. I don't
You
know.
don't vote, so if you have nobody who wishes to be on those, and we don't have them meeting now.
Right.
So, in my mind, it would be not reclassifying what kind of meeting or committee they are, but just simply stating these committees are not running right now, and therefore,
as needed ad hoc, right.
we will not have a trustee representative on them. In the event that we do reinstate these under whatever's required or needed, then we will revisit this and come to you for, again, consideration of who would like to serve.
Right.
So let's put those as if somebody's chomping to do it, then we can talk about that, but let's move on to the other ones then first. Does anybody have a burning need to switch up something that they're already on?
I would like to.
What would you?
Because with my work situation and going to agenda planning now, I need to drop something that takes place during the workday because I have no vacation time since I just started a new position.
Alrighty then.
So it's hard for me to take the time out of the workday to do those things. Which kind of I think it's like safe routes to schools would be one of the ones, which is only 3 meetings a year. It's very few. And then I know that we have too many people on the parent guardian equity task force. If Chris was still interested in continuing, since she was on there as a parent, but now she's a trustee, I would be willing to, let that go. And I also didn't know if the wellness committee, it says coming soon, so I didn't know what the situation with that was. So I just kind of.
Do you have an ETA on the wellness committee?
Not currently. Still working to gather the troops and get the right people.
Do you think there might be a meeting this year, or we?
Absolutely.
There will, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So the task force, Rachel, that's fine. It's just an automatic that I'm there.
Okay.
So I'll
Great.
keep that.
So, okay. So
And I will take
take me
the
off that
safe routes to school
Okay.
role.
Okay.
That's great since
Thank
you've
you.
already.
Since they hate me already.
Definitely get to talk though.
Check out next door comments on the extra stop signs.
Okay, so that's safe routes, and then you are okay staying with the yes?
I can stay with yes.
Okay.
They're in the evenings. It's easier.
So one other interdependency that I heard in your update, Rachel, is, and that I've seen in past as well, has been this nexus between safe routes and the JIPA, the bus transportation services, which doesn't meet that often, but I have seen in the past, like 3 times or so, that there's a really useful overlap and nexus in that realm.
We'll do it.
And it is via Zoom. And I do understand from communicating with Chris Whitlock with the Marin Transportation Authority that they're looking at the next meeting being in March.
Okay, sure.
The date's not set yet.
Yeah, that one doesn't meet very often.
Say again.
That one doesn't meet very often.
No, like 3 times a year.
Maybe, yeah.
And then can you stay on DLAG?
I can stay on DLAG. Okay. Do we need a second for any of those? Or?
A second one. Well,
Like an alternate or...
I mean, the Parent Guardian Equity Task Force, I can also just continue on as the alternate or the.
Well, you can have 2.
I can be alternate on
Yeah,
DLAC.
you can have 2.
And you can be alternate on DLAC?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'll stay, since we're working together on the policy work as well anyhow for the Parent Guardian Equity Task Force. So I'll stay on there.
Okay.
Policy update, roundtable and superintendents I've been on and I'm happy to stay on, because those are kind of a combined one, but it's also a helpful one as an alternate. So how consistent do you think the alternate needs?
It's only when you can't be there.
Okay. All right.
So if you think you
Is there any way just to, when the alternate doesn't have to be named, but if you can't make it, then Marcia
Put it
can
out.
reach out and say, can someone
Sure.
attend? I mean,
Yes. That's a great idea.
So, okay.
Yes. Okay. So that's if Shelley can't go, we'll let everybody know and somebody can
just
step
say,
in.
because our schedules will allow us to be able to say yes or no,
Okay.
right? Okay.
That's a great idea. So then, let me see.
The same for so roundtable soups council. Same for both.
Yeah.
Ryan, how are you? What is your?
I have to release as much as I possibly can due to work. And that's unfortunate because I know that we're short, a board member and a replacement board member, so.
Okay.
But it's really difficult for me to commit to anything.
Can you stay on as best you can the efficiency and effectiveness? One that's bright and early, and I often go to that one because it's right before. So that one.
That one only gets tough. I mean, yes, and if I'm giving rides to school,
Yes.
it's an impossible
Yes.
time. It's for people who don't leave the house.
Yep.
Meetings.
Well, I will stay as the second on that, and then I will take over the JLAC because it's the same. It's usually the same day.
Yeah, it goes right.
It's the same day,
yeah.
and it's the 7th, so it's just a block out 7:30 to 9:45 total. So I can do those two.
All right. And no interest in doing Golden Bell, which is perfectly fine. That's okay. I'll continue doing it, but
interest, but not bandwidth.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think it's very helpful. Your perspective in terms of the content of Golden Bell makes a lot of sense if you are okay staying.
I love it. Yeah, I've been doing it for 1,000 years.
All right.
We did have feedback in 2019 as well. I'm sorry.
Do you know what was the?
So that.
Or is it
bond money?
Well, it had to do with like this building and
Yeah, the
before the ones in 2018.
So it's still bond related.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And state bond funds. And so it was the same because I was looking in 2018, they were looking at the Manor playground and those types of things.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll do the same like with Golden Bell. We'll just have an NA by policy update and by DFAC.
Okay.
And then in the event that
You can default to me to DFAC because
Okay.
I know a lot about the facilities. I took the tours. I have a lot of notes on all of it.
Mhm.
So I don't mind. And if it says needed, it's fine.
Okay. Do you want to do that then?
Yeah.
Leave it there and do as needed?
Sure.
And Ryan, okay.
Do you want to leave your name on it as a standing committee or
Yeah.
just? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because yeah, it's fine.
All right. And then the wellness committee would be the.
I would like to stay on that, so I can put me as primary on that one.
Well, you wear the mask most, so you're going to do well the most. It's coming soon. It's very exciting with the
I
exclamation
know,
point.
right?
It's like,
when?
don't miss it.
I was at the last one, and it was
Does
like 5 years ago.
And that's it.
Does that cover us all?
So we can just go from the top. So for DLAC, we have Rachel with Ryan as alternate. And then for DFAC is Ryan. And then Parent Guardian Equity Task Force, both Shelley and Chris.
And if you could put me as an A, just as a.
Okay, you'll do the alternate?
I'll do an
Okay.
alternate, just
All right.
to clarify that.
Alrighty, and then policy is an NA, roundtable and superintendent's council, both with Shelley, and then if Shelley's unable to attend either of the meetings, then we will email all the trustees to see if somebody can take her place. Wellness committee will be Rachel. Yes Foundation, Rachel. Effectiveness and efficiency countywide will be Shelley and Ryan. And Ryan will attend as often as he can. Golden Bell, NA, JIPA, Chris, Shelley, JLAC, MCSBA, Chris, and Safe Routes to School, Shelley.
And remember
No,
that we
I'm sorry, Chris. I got you.
and remember
Said the
we
wrong
also
name.
have hopefully we would have another trustee to
Yeah,
take
yeah,
some of
we
this
want
too
yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe find some interest in the things that they might.
Yeah, we can do it again. Yeah, but this will get us through for the meetings that happen.
Wonderful.
All right.
No fisticuffs.
No, that's, yeah, very amenable. Work that out.
Negotiate that. Wonderful. Committee assignments. So now we've got our approval of our regular meeting minutes for January 11th, our last meeting. Are there any edits, errors, omissions, amendments? No.
You might check the meetings for the last slides we had up had the emails. I think it was. If you go back a couple slides, you can see it on the board where it has
about the committee update.
the committee update. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Just didn't have the updated trustees.
Absolutely.
So with that change, I make a motion to approve minutes for the January 11th meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ryan?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shelley? Aye. Rachel?
Aye.
Meeting minutes are approved. And Superintendent Cabinet Report.
Rochambeau?
I actually have nothing this evening.
Gary?
Nothing from student services.
All right, and I just have just one that
No, just nothing.
All right. I just wanted to say, that as you may have seen in the IJ this last week, that there was an article around receiving the anti-bias grant. Is something that I always look at every single day is the California School Boards Association Roundup, as they call it. So they're pulling articles from all over the state, and it was the very last article in the roundup was the IJ article. And they referenced it. I was like, wait, Los Banos, where am I going? Back to my hometown. Hello, Ross Valley School District. We made it not only something positive in the IJ about us, but also that we were in CSBA. So it was really a great feeling, and we had a lot of fun just as an administrative team kind of celebrating that. We're starting preview nights. We've had 2 so far for TK&K. Coming up, we've had 3 so far. Wade Thomas, Brookside, and Hidden Valley. And I believe tomorrow night is Manor. And then White Hill will have its preview night. It's coming up in March. February. Coming up in February. And looking forward to that. That'll be fun. And that's for all families who have 4th and 5th graders are interested in just going. It's not just for the class that's rolling up into 6th grade. And it can be for new families as well, too. We had our superintendent cabinet chat at Wade Thomas today. We did have one parent, but it was really fun before the chat occurred. A few of us were able to make it in time for their Wednesday morning meeting. And so one of the parents who happens to also be on our Parent Guardian Equity Task Force worked to teach the children around Lunar New Year. And so it was fun because she had her daughter come up and they talked about how they celebrate in the home. And then a short video was held, and then the kids, you could hear just the palpable interest and excitement when the kids saw the ways to celebrate. In the Lunar New Year, you could hear them talking, oh, I do that too at home. And it was just all over all the kids in the Wade Thomas Multi. It was really fun. And it's always fun to go to those because not only are they for the kids, but there's so many families who are able to stay and also participate in that too. It was a lot of fun.
Do all the schools do the Wednesday morning? Because
they're not necessarily Wednesday morning. Some do it at the end of the school day prior to dismissal. Okay. Yeah. And then some have moved to like twice a month, not an every week kind of thing. And then, as you all know, unfortunately, our Judith Perry-Goujon, principal of Brookside, will be resigning at the end of the year. Definitely going to be very difficult to replace Judith. Very sad that she's leaving, but she and her husband will be moving to Connecticut to be closer to family. And so
I can try to keep her, but I don't think that's gonna work. So we are beginning our search. And so what we do, as we do with any of our administrative positions, is to get input. So we're working with Judith as well as to find the date for the parents and guardians to do an input session, as well as with the classified and certificated employees at the site. And then for each of those groups, because we know that for anybody who comes to a listening session, they may not have their voice be heard. So we also do a survey so that anybody who couldn't attend or anybody who may feel like, I just don't want to say what I want to say out loud, then in an anonymous survey they can give input. And we do use the input and feedback to help us develop the questions, the tests, the scenarios, and so on around that. So that's the selection process. And we do have parents, guardians, staff, and certificated and classified staff participate on these selection panels. So we'll be beginning that. So we're looking now at like what other locations can we advertise other than EdJoin. Everybody knows that EdJoin is the premier place that if you want a job in education, that's where you go. But we also know that as part of our goals is to try to recruit a diverse staff. And so we will be going out, Julia, that's part of her job is to do recruitment. So she is looking for the various locations and sites, and she has found two that we haven't heard from. And then just part of this listserv that I'm on, actually I think Julia's on it too, is something just came through. It's CalSPRA, it's California School Public Relations Association. And it's been one of the best things that I've been able to be on since I became superintendent, because you see things from all over the state. And there was just a question on there the other day that somebody asked, hey, where's a good place to advertise? And the response came. So that was another one that we've been able to incorporate. So we'll begin that. Our goal would be to fill the position. We'll know who the new principal for Brookside is, meaning that before we go home for summer break. So that is the goal, and we'll be working towards that. And then, just in case you didn't know, did you know that January is School Board Recognition Month?
So I did not know that. Did not make it on my calendar.
Speaking of School Board Recognition, it'd be nice for us to do, maybe somehow send something to Marie, because we usually do a recognition when school board trustees rotate off. So I'll work with you, but it would be nice. So we might have everybody sign a card or something. Oh shoot, she's listening.
You mentioned Julia's working on the recruitment side, and what was you mentioned a consultant firm?
No, it's I don't remember the name right now, but there's a let's see if I can pull it up really fast. But there is a place to advertise, to go to put up a notice about it, to advertise there.
There was a recruitment agency that helped get Dr. Garcia for Sausalito, Marin City, and they recruit actively educators of color. And I'm not quite sure if you've looked into that or not.
No, we usually don't use a recruitment. The districts typically don't unless it's a superintendent position. But it certainly is something that we can look into to see. I can talk with Utoko. See there. Write my note. There. All right, I think that's it. That's right. Future board topics and board direction. Do we have anything?
Yeah, I have one. I think that a future board topic that we should really look to is promotion and outreach for enrollment.
Okay.
I think it's crucial. And not that it's being overlooked or not done well, I just think it's a vital component to strength and success.
Okay. And then we also had talked about doing a board like another kind of board training and retreat type of thing for us to talk about. A workshop for us.
And I think the workshop should be postponed until after we find our new person.
I think that's a great idea, because then we can do onboarding, because we haven't really done a formal as well.
All right. I wanted to ask about superintendent review too, since I know Marie
Yes.
was kind of pushing for that before and she's stepped off. I just don't want that to get falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for us to think about?
Are we gonna do updates on the 7-Eleven committee and when they're meeting, and have they met yet, or?
Not yet. We believe we have a date. We did need to put out another doodle poll for them, and so based on the responses, we do have a date, which could be as early as next week. So we'll have to,
Yeah, we hadn't had any updates because we were waiting for a bundle of stuff to update on. But I do
Is that a
believe,
public meeting?
yes, all the 7
They're all brown
meetings
out,
are. Yeah. And I think we will probably have content and stuff to update.
Okay.
For their next February. The next meeting then, as a wrap up, is February 8th. So, with that, I will 9:39. I never use this, but you inspired me with this. Go ahead and adjourn at 9:39.